My guest on today's episode is repeat and good friend of mine, DJ Bowman Smith, from across the pond, as we say, they say, as it is said. Great conversation. Don't even know where this episode actually fits into my current, formats. It's a little bit of a conversation about marketing. It's a little bit of a conversation about what it feels like to publish a book, the fears of your reputation, what people will think when they learn that you're foul-mouthed and that you write about really dark, gritty things. It travels widely, so I hope that you enjoy this and find it relatable. I want to ask again. I've taken a couple episodes off just so that I'm not exhausting you with this request. But if you have one of those free review copies, I would love it if you would drop that review on Amazon. And I'll also let you know, you've already listened to my episode with Lars Emmerich. I'm spending $20 a day to advertise on Facebook. And the difference between getting a sale and somebody walking away might be them checking on Amazon to see how many reviews my book has. Is it really legitimate? And so if you've got a free review copy and you can take a moment to leave that review, what it does for me is that it helps people see that people are reading this thing, that they're engaging with it, and generally speaking, they're liking it. I've got 10 reviews on Amazon right now. I'd love to bump that up to 20 in the next couple of weeks. I think it's a real possibility. So again, if you're listening, you've got a review copy, take a moment right now, pause the show, jump over to Amazon. I'll even leave you a direct link to the review page in the show notes. So all you have to do is click the thing that says direct review link, drop that review in, and you know what? It'll help me out so much. Really appreciate you. Please enjoy my conversation with the host of the Words and Pictures podcast, and my guest today. I said guest a lot. Anyways, DJ Bowman Smith.
If you've ever watched an author read in public and felt bored, TRBM is the antidote. TRBM is for writers what time-lapse was for painters, guitar solos and spotlight were for bands, what chainsaws and ice blocks were for sculptors. What does TRBM stand for? Totally rested and believing in miracles? Thankful Roundup brings money? Text ratios below mean? You decide.
But I just am taking advantage of an interesting space where I find myself right now of having just published my first novel. And it's really on the heels of publishing a nonfiction book. So I've got 2 books in the world, plans for several more, kind of trickling it out and completely changing everything. So I'm going to start to lean into your experience and hope that listeners glean just some of the back and forth from us of you sharing your experience, being quite a ways down the road from where I'm at the moment in the publishing journey. Have you found
2 books, Jody? 2 books. Yeah. Yay. Well done, you.
Thanks. Thank you.
It's no easy thing. And no. I mean, I'm pleased to see that you've come on to the dark side. You've you decided to go indie, and I think you need to go whatever works for you. I'm not against traditional publishing or hybrids or anything. And it's further down the line, you might end up being a bit of both. A lot of people are, but I have to say, I'm kind of glad that you've done the indie thing.
Yeah, I am happy about it. I just had a guest on. I haven't put her episode out yet, but Libby Grant, and she started out self-published and now at this point has like 4 different pen names and writes full-time for different publishers. So she's back to being trade pubbed. But she described her day to me, and this was a moment where I thought, wow, okay, I've done some things wrong. She says, first thing in the day, I write for 5 hours, and then I'm done with work all day, and I just sit and look out at the ocean and smoke pot and read books. And I was like, well, okay then, and she's doing well for herself. Yeah. I'm not so much of the pot smoking type though. I have nothing against it. But just that idea of 5 hours of dedicated writing, doing what I love, and then the world reads your books. And she's like, I write so many books, I have to have pen names in order to release them so I don't compete against myself. And that all started because she self-published and kind of took that journey. So that to me is...
It'll take you where you need to go. You'll either be a very successful self-publisher or you'll swap into the other side and that'll be that. So how's it going so far? Good. What do you want to know? What can I do?
So, the first question I do want to get back to is you're an advocate of TikTok. I think last we discussed, I'm on there so rarely that I don't pay attention to what you're doing, but talk to me about the upsides of TikTok, anything you've noticed that's changed since the last time we spoke, and is it worth me using in any ways? What would you say would work well for me?
Well, I quite like the TikTok because I've found it quite fun. I ended up doing the TikTok. It's something I always said I wouldn't do, but then I began to narrate an audiobook for one of my children's work, and I realised that, like, and then when I got the microphone and got a few bits and pieces, I thought, I'm going to start a podcast. So I obviously started my own podcast, and then, having done that, which was like quite a big step for me, I thought, you know what, I could go on TikTok now. I'm actually not scared. So I kind of jumped on there, and I found I was able to get up and go, oh, I'm DJ Bowman Smith, and I've done this and blah, blah, blah. And I could do that. And I've got better at making, little videos of my books and stuff like that. The hardest thing, I think, is always the writing of the taglines for the adverts that you do. So you might put some stuff on about your books. So you might, pictures, or visuals with your books, and some music behind it, and then you want some words over the top, and you're forever writing up these taglines. It's just like writing the blurb for your books anyway, which is always a pain.
Yes.
And you, every time you write the blurbs for your book, you'll look at it, and 2 months down the road, you look at it again and think, I could do that better, and you keep changing it because you want it to work. And it's a bit like that. So I think it's quite good for really making you drill down as to what exactly that book's about, and what the reader or the looker of the person who's looking at your TikTok is going to get from that video. What is it that you're trying to sell? And I think you really have to get your marketing hat on, and at the same time, I find the TikTok is actually quite creative, and I think that's what I quite enjoy about it. I don't think I'm brilliant at it, and I haven't got a massive following or anything like that, but I do find if I get on there and I'm good, and I put a couple of things on over the every day, I try and do one every day, and if I do 2 a day, one in the morning, one sort of early evening, I definitely notice an uptick in sales. So that and I do, and at the moment I'm not actually doing paid advertising. I'm just kind of keeping my little budget. I'm about to bring out some new stuff in a couple of months. So I kind of want to keep it for that, the budget for that. So I do think it makes a difference. I've just started a TikTok for my other author name, which is Tiger Molly, which that's myself as a children's author. And I found that really hard to get going, because I want it to be, to sort of follow more illustrators and illustrators of children's books and writers of children's books, or people that are, educators for young children. And it's actually quite hard to drill down and find those people. But I think that's what's important, is to try and make your TikTok very specific to what it is that you're trying to do. I think that's the thing. And to follow those people, and not just follow everything that interests you, like somebody dancing, or somebody wearing a nice lipstick or whatever they're doing, or a cat doing something silly. Don't follow any of that. Don't like it. Just skim past and just hone down in on exactly what it is that you're doing, which is, you've got to ask yourself every day, I'm on TikTok and I'm not here to have fun. It might be fun, we hope, but I'm actually here to sell a book and to sell my author self, and that's what you've got to do, I think. So that's my thing. And I haven't noticed anything different, only that I find it, to be honest, yes, I do think it helps with a few book sales. I can see that it would get better as it gets bigger, the account. I don't think I'd be ruling out perhaps using TikTok, when you can sell your books directly through TikTok. I'm kind of thinking I might go that route. I haven't looked into it yet, but I'm certainly considering it. And I might, in fact, do paid advertising within TikTok as well. I might well use that. So that's my thing. So I think there's a lot more you can do with it. That's what I'm saying. I'm on there very basically. I do have a professional account in there, so you can put your websites and all that kind of thing on it. But at the moment, I haven't actually spent money on TikTok. But I'm not ruling it out. It's definitely something I'll be probably starting this year. So I'll let you know how that goes.
I started doing some paid advertising on Facebook, which I have almost no presence on Facebook, and I'm fine with that. What's really interesting about doing paid advertising on Facebook is the amount of information you can get about what people are interested in. And I was surprised. So the way that I did it is I ran 10 color block ads. So it's basically just a generic color background with a tagline. And I ran 10 different taglines to check out and see, what do people respond to? What tagline do they actually like? And I was really surprised, because the ones that I thought for sure were the juiciest and the best didn't perform well. And the best one that I had was one that I wasn't particularly fond of. And so I ran a couple of those, and then I paired the tagline with an image, and it was the same thing again. I used the winning tagline with 10 unique images, and I was positive I knew which one was going to win. I was surprised again. So it's interesting to see how people respond to what you're doing differently than you would expect. I wonder if that would, you've got my creative marketing juices flowing, and I'm wondering if I could take those taglines and somehow adapt them to the TikTok world, because it almost feels like it would be a waste to not be able to use that information that I now have about what readers respond to more broadly.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very interesting, the TikTok, because you can do two things. You can either just put visuals on with your book and your things, or you can just get in there in front of the camera and, talk about your stuff and just be your own self. And I do a bit of both, and sometimes I do stuff that's nothing, as the DJ Bowman Smith account, I just sometimes get on there and just do something funny that just for the hell of it, because why not? Right. And sometimes I think it's quite nice to just show your own self. And I think people like that, to see the author is just a normal person messing about on TikTok like everybody else. But however, I don't think, you might get a few hits on that. But again, I think you have to be strict with yourself, that you're not just fiddling around making a sandwich and showing your cup of tea and stuff. I think you should always be on message. I think otherwise you're just wasting your time. And I think for me, I find, I don't know, well, you were probably the same, Jody. I find time is just not infinite. I've got these little blocks of things, and I don't even have small children, but even now I find, I do too much. I do 2 author names. I'm trying to do the podcast. I'm trying to write a blog. I'm trying to do something else. Trying to do the advertising. I do my own artwork. And sometimes I come out at the end of the day and I go, I actually don't know who I am. At the point. So if I'm on there, I want it to be productive, and I want to have, I want to have some gain from it. Really, otherwise I'm wasting my time. Social media for us isn't just about mucking about. Unfortunately, it's about selling,
I think the most interesting aspect of that, though, is that when you pin down why you're using social media, in our case, to sell our books, I do think that it liberates you to have fun with it in ways that it's otherwise not particularly fun. Probably the only social media trap I fall into at this point is occasionally Instagram. And it doesn't happen on TikTok for whatever reason. The algorithm either doesn't understand me, or I'm not sure. But Instagram occasionally can get me reel scrolling. I'll watch a reel and laugh at it, and then scroll to the next one, or check out someone's profile and watch 20 of their reels and really get drawn in. That's a bit of a time waster in the evenings when I'm mentally tired and not being very vigilant about how well I'm using time. But your point about time not being infinite, I've run into that in the most profoundly awful way right now, because I can't get everything done that I want to get done. I can't afford to hire someone quite yet. There was a little bit there where that
never goes away. That never goes away. You can't get everything done that you want to do. Yeah. It's just frustrating. I think the problem is I'm able to do too many things, really. If I could just write, that would be fine, or just do the art, that would be fine. But because I'm able to do that, and if I just stuck to one thing of writing, but then I think, well, I'd like to write some children's books. I am an old school teacher. I have had children, so you think, and I've got those ideas. And I don't like to, I feel that the ideas are a kind of a gift, and it feels a bit churlish not to get them out there and use that you've got, use that creativity. So so I think you've just got to plow on, do the best you can. I don't think I've got any answer for that. I don't think anybody has. I think it's just about making lists and trying to prioritize. I think that's absolutely not helpful at all for anybody listening, or for you, Jody. But there you go.
Oh, I understand, and then a lot of this is the truth. I've been coming to. I think you've even said it on a past episode. I've been coming to the reality that there is no way around spending money on advertising if you really want to sell books. I don't know at what level you need to spend money. But there certainly is a portion of people that I speak to who aren't willing to spend any money until they make money. And I always want to say, I mean, you don't have to spend money to make money. I can talk about a lot of different areas where that might not be the best way, but here, to really have an impactful amount of sales, you do need to start spending money in strategic areas and realize that you should make that money back as you get better at what you're doing. So sinking some money into the business of writing is probably a good idea. I find that I was a little bit resistant myself in many ways to spending that money because I thought, oh, I've lost it and it's never coming back.
Yeah, I think the advertising is a hard thing. I mean, I've done Facebook ads that didn't work so well for me.
Yeah,
and I've done Amazon ads that did better.
Okay.
But then at the moment I've stopped them all. I stopped them all about 6 months ago. I thought, no, I'm just going to park this where it is now. I think that's fine. And I think it's a very tricky thing. It can feel like throwing tenors into the wind, to be honest. Tenors being, dollars into the wind. It feels a bit like that, like you just open the window and you're just letting the money go. And I think it's also a very hard thing to quantify. I think I stopped it because I wanted to see how much impact the social media made on my sales, and really you need to stop it for a long time, stop the ads for a long time, the paid ads, in order to then consider whether the social media, the time that you spend on it. That's what I wanted to know. The amount of time I spend on social media doing that promotional work, is that actually worth it? Or could I think I wanted to know, could I do one or the other? Could I stop the social media and just do the ads, or just do the ads and, for the thing? But the conclusion, I think you need to do a bit of both.
Yeah.
I think that's the honest conclusion. And I will start the ads up again when as we get further into the year. I think
I'm on the wrong side of this conversation to even make a conjecture, but here's my conjectures. I think that you can be a full-time author if you have the amount of money to learn advertising to get to the point where your advertisements are effective. And you could not do social media and do that. However, I think that doing social media can build your brand in ways that ads just won't. There's something about the way that a person will interact with you as soon as they see the little tag that says sponsored, that you now are a product and you don't have that same level of human interaction. So I think what you're saying is very, very true. It's deeply important, especially if you want to see robust long-term sales and get to a point where maybe you can back off the advertising dollars. I don't know if that's possible either, though. As somebody was saying the other day in a book that I read, maybe that Coca-Cola spends $3 billion a year on advertising. And you kind of think about that and you're like, Coca-Cola shouldn't have to advertise at this point, right? But apparently it makes a big difference.
Yeah, well, they know. Yeah, I think that's very telling. I think it's very telling. I think as long as you're sensible and you earmark a bit of budget and then do it like that, I think that's really the plan. I've done courses for it. I did the Mark Dawson Ads for Authors course.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a very good one. I'm selling this. I don't have any affiliate links or anything like that. It's just, I have done it. I did it a few years ago. The nice thing about it, if you buy that course, it seems like quite a lot of money to spend. You think, oh Lord, really? But you have it for life. And I think this is what's really useful, is you have the course for life. And as they add to it, including whole different modules, you still have it. It just updates and you get the new thing. Yeah. So you have this whole thing, and there's loads and loads of different aspects to that, not just Amazon ads. It's got all the Facebook ads and different ways that you can do your advertising, and it's been a godsend, really. I think and I still go back into it every year and have a look and see what's new and check it out.
Yeah.
You know,
So in terms of that, because I really did look into that course for a little while, I chose not to go with it, although I reached out to and had somewhat of a conversation with James Blatch for a little while through Twitter messages. And yeah, it didn't seem like it was a perfect fit for me, and I wasn't convinced that it was going to return. But I've heard a couple of people who have taken it and enjoyed it to a degree. Have you heard of the guy who calls himself Kindlepreneur before?
the Kindlepreneur. Yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
have the Kindle Rocket thing, whatever it's called. I've got the different
Okay.
computer. I can't think
Yeah,
what's it called.
Dave
Rocket.
Chesson is his name.
Dave Chesson, yeah, and
Yeah.
I've got his little app that you can use to drill down and find
Yeah.
other
Target
books
words
that are
and
like yours, target words and all those kinds of things. And that's quite a useful thing. And that
yeah.
again is a one-off payment and you've always got that thing. So again, you might think, oh, it's a bit expensive, but you can't. My dad always said, men nor fools can't work without tools. And sometimes these are the tools of our trade. You've got some courses that you can go back into and have a look at. And like I said, the Dave Chesson thing, I did his free course as well. Yeah. And what one person will teach you, you can learn that off somebody, but then you'll go to another course and they'll teach you another little angle on it. So sometimes you just got to read around the subject and find out what you need to know. Yeah, I don't think there's no one thing there's no one ingredient. Yeah. It's many ingredients to make the soup of publishing.
Absolutely. I know. It scares me a little bit. It scares me. So going back to what we were talking about earlier, one thing I really like about indie publishing or self-publishing is the ability to keep a large portion of your profits from selling the books. So, I mean, even at the lowest tier for Amazon, 30% is generous compared to trade publishers. And then 70% if you decide to do KU is really great for ebooks. So there's opportunity inside there. And then if you're able to forge a path forward without going on Amazon, you could keep 90% of your profits through ebooks if you had your own store. So there are a lot of opportunities to make the most of self-publishing. It means you have to sell fewer books. Maybe it's a shorter learning curve to get to a point where you're profitable or even making a living on writing. But it's also I think challenging to not have the immediate stamp of approval with going through traditional publishing. You don't get somebody to say, aha, they've gone through all the gates. They've made it through all of the stopways. And this book is approved by the industry or something. And so I think that's a little bit of a challenge. How do you create for yourself? And this is my question for you, not even a hypothetical. How do you create some sense of authority so that your readers say, I really have to read DJ's books?
I think you have to have some faith in yourself that your story is worth it and that, you've written a good thing, something that the people that read that genre would like. But also, I think what's important is to make a really good product. And when it's just you, nobody will care about your book as much as you do. And I think that's a really interesting thing. And I've read a couple of books. Well, I'm always reading, but recent books that I've read, 5 books, 2 of them were indie and 3 of them were traditionally published. And the 2 indie books had no typos in that I could notice. Mm-hmm. And the 3 traditionally published books had typos in, quite bad typos.
Oh, no.
Especially towards the end. And I thought, wow. Now the indie authors would take that book back out and if somebody mentioned that there was a typo, we'd take it back out.
Very true.
We'd sort out the problem and then we'd republish it.
Yes.
And I've done that several times. When people have noticed, I go back in and I would sort it out. Obviously, my books have been around for a while now, so I kind of feel like they're pretty as good as they're ever going to get. But and I think that's the difference. Whereas I think the traditional publishing house can be a bit like, well, this is it, we've done this and it's gone out, and then they're not interested, even if the author says, I've heard that there's this or there's that, and they go, well, it's out there now. But actually you can take it back and have another go. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. It's about having a real pride in what it is that you're making, and you're making this book and you want it to be as absolutely as good as it can possibly be, and you'll do anything to do that, whether it's editing and the whole thing of it. You will try to make it as perfect as it can be.
Yeah.
And I think that's what gives us credibility, and I think that's why indie authors are and independent authors, not just me particularly, but we are a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
We sell more books than the traditional published market.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And that is a fact. That is a fact. And most people can't tell the difference. They cannot tell the difference. I threw my books on a table the other day. Somebody said, "Oh, are you a writer, Debbie?" It was some new friends that have moved in. And I said, "Yes, I am actually." And they said, "Oh gosh, what do you write?" So I just grabbed some of my stuff and I put it on the table. And they said, "Oh, who publishes you?" And I said, "I do."
I publish me.
And when she was like, "But these look like real books." So, well, they are real books. And I just thought it was such a funny reaction. But that is the thing. People just assume when they look at my stuff that it is traditionally published, but I'm the publisher.
Right.
And it is a funny thing. So, that's all I can say is it's just having the pride in your, and the belief in your thing, and making it as good as you can, and it's fine. It's fine to be an indie publisher.
Right.
You can
absolutely.
do it.
Yeah. There's, I don't know when or if I will get over the stigma in my own mind about doing it. I can still think of the conversations. I had several conversations, really in-depth conversations with my wife about the choice. I remember the hesitancy in doing it. The nonfiction book never bothered me because I thought I don't really want to be a nonfiction author. And I think that this is a really effective tool to get out into the world. I may have said this the last time we talked. I know I've said it on the show before. I have an issue. Now, this is funny because we just talked about a couple of people who sell courses. I have an issue with courses. I have an issue with masterminds. In most cases, the product being sold does not teach you anything valuable enough for the price tag on them. So I've actually heard people in the inside baseball conversations you have about this kind of stuff. I've had people try to pitch me on developing a course, and they're like, here's the deal. You put all of your information inside of a book and sell the book. And how much can you get for it? $7.99 a copy. Use that exact same information and call it a course, and you can charge people $100. And I realized that is absolutely true. And as much as I really, really like Mark Dawson and everything they're doing and continue to listen to their podcast, I think it is true that they could put that in an ebook and you could do updated editions of it. You would have to buy like 6 to 10 editions of that book before it would be more expensive than having access to the course. So I think that is a reality. And then in saying that, it's no secret that the Facebook ads I was telling you about before, that's a course that I'm in right now. And it has been worth every single dollar that I paid for it. It's the first time I've ever thought I know exactly how to get where I'm going. Now,
whose is that course then? Whose is that one?
Yeah, it's called Ammo Foundations by Lars Emmerich. And the idea behind it is testing your way to profitable ads. And so like I said, it's the first time I've ever seen something where they actually say, do this in these steps and you will have these outcomes. And it's been proven true for me. Everything he said that I could do, I will do, but will end up being the most pricey course that I've ever been part of. The actual course itself isn't terribly expensive, but the tools that you need to subscribe to in order to track and measure everything, it's kind of like adding the science of advertising behind it. You actually have a way to measure. I know exactly who's seeing what, how they're interacting with it. There's this program that almost seems like really awful. It's called MouseFlow. And you can install a webhook and get your pixel installed and everything. And you can see people when they go to your website, how they browse your website. I can actually see how long they linger on a block. If they try to click on something. And, it feels like you're like, wow, this is really invasive. But at the same time, it has taught me where I'm lacking in my website and how to update my website to get people to have less friction in the experience, which makes it better for them. So I like it. Anyways, enough of an ad for them. I do like the program so far. I've recommended it to a few of my friends. But here's the really biggest question, though, is all around ebooks, audiobooks,
hardcover books, in-person readings. Talk to me a little bit about your experience of being kind of, I'm going to call it the complete author. You're able to sell in all formats and get in front of people and engage people. What is that like for you? How much are you out among your readers, I guess?
I think I'm not out among my readers as much as I'd like to be, I think. I certainly don't do, like book signings or stuff like that. Generally, I'm interacting with readers over social media, or if they get in contact with me over my contact pages on my websites.
Yeah.
So I think that is a little bit lacking. But I'm there if they want to get in touch with me.
Yeah.
To be honest, just circling back a little bit to your thing about the courses. I think the thing about a course is, and here I am on the old, I am an old school teacher.
Yeah.
So it's very much about how you learn, I think. Now,
definitely.
I love a book. I'll read stuff. I love to read, all sorts of things. But the thing about the courses, I can get that information into my skull and start using it quickly. And I think that is the thing. It's back to the time again. I can learn that stuff quickly. If I've got visual videos and stuff like that, then I can assimilate it. And I think that's what's really good. Well, I could learn the same stuff from a book, but I would have to write it out. It would take me much longer than learning it from the other thing. Yeah. So I'm out amongst the readers. Well, the books are out there, and I suppose that's a good thing, really. And I think you're always striving to do more, bring more stuff out, write the next thing, And I think I'm always concentrating on whatever the new thing is a little bit. But then I think you have to be really, because the more books you have, the more profitable the whole thing is. What one book is, but as you add to your thing, and the really people that are actually making a good profit have got a few books under their belt, and that's the key, I think. Read through. That's what it's all about.
I will drop a link. There's a really cool research about how many books self-published authors have out before they become full-time authors, and the amount of money that they make based on how many books they have out. It's a fantastic study that someone recommended to me. So I'll try to link to that in the show notes for this podcast. But so this is one hesitancy I have. And interestingly, I think early on we were already recording. My guest Libby was telling me that she publishes so many books in a year that she does, all she does is write 5 hours a day. That sounds really nice to me. At the same time, I want the freedom to know that if a book takes me a long time to wrestle it into shape, that I can financially survive while I do that. And I have a little bit of conflict in my soul about feeling like I have to just keep publishing book after book after book and have 30 books out there. And that's the only way to be profitable. Do you ever feel conflicted about that idea at all? Art can't be forced to cooperate with a clock, or what are your thoughts there?
Well, I think the thing is, Jody, we've got a massive age gap here. Now, I'm a woman in my later years here, and Jody's a young man with his young family, and so for you, you're trying to make your money from your books, right now, and that's great. Yeah. Go for it. For me, I did the two things. I taught. I was a writer that I was a teacher that wrote, and then I became a writer that taught, and then the teaching went off I gave that up a few years ago. I used to just teach part-time, and then I gave it up, and I kind of tick over, and that's quite nice. And to be honest, I don't know, as you get older, I don't know whether for me, it's about the enjoyment. I like doing what I'm doing, and I like being able to think, okay, today I'm going to do the children's stuff, or today I'm going to do some artwork, or today I'm actually not. Today I'm not. Like today, for example, by the time I'd got up, I met a friend this morning. I walked the dog. I came back. I made some food. I had a doze.
There you go.
I slept in the afternoon, and then my husband came home early, and then we went for another walk with the dog, and nothing's been done really. I've actually achieved nothing, and I did a little bit of editing, and that was it. And do I care? Not really. Tomorrow's another day. So I think for me, the trouble is, I'm not saying I'm not ambitious, but my ambition has been toned down with age. I'm quietly ambitious without it really driving me to the thing. And I think if I started this when I was 20, I think I'd be quite a different creature. If I was in my 20s or 30s, I'd be much more driven. Whereas now I'm like, dinner's ready when I finish cooking it, and this book will be ready when I finish writing it. Yeah, that's it.
So there's a TV show that's over in England called The Trip. I think it's still called The Trip, but they made it into movies. That's the only way we can watch it here in the States. Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon, and it's far and away my favorite movie. I'd rarely say I have a favorite anything, but that first movie, the TV show made into a movie, is my favorite. And there's this one conversation that Steve Coogan and Rob Brydon have at a dinner table, and Steve Coogan is talking about wanting massive amounts of fame. They're both guys who are in their probably early 50s. And so they've had careers, they've had some success, they've had a splash, and Steve desperately still wants to have the BAFTAs and the Oscars and the glory. And across from him, Rob is kind of like, hey, I've had middling success my entire career. People like me. I love what I do. It's not crazy. I love my wife. I love my kid. And they're sort of different views of what is happening, and how to live their life. It's fascinating. I find that the reason it works so well for me is because I'm a little bit of both. There's a part of me that wants to get up at 5:30 a.m. every morning and bust ass and really show people what an amazing person I am. And then there's a part of me that hears somebody say, I write for 5 hours and I just kind of mess around the rest of the day, and it's lovely. And I have both of those things.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit like your friend without the pot, but I don't do anything in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I might do a podcast if somebody's the time zone they have to be on the morning. But generally I get up quite late, and then I sit and chat to my husband, and then I take the whip it on the beach, and then I come back and I faff about. I do a few chores, and then I kind of get to it after lunch, and then I'll write through the afternoon. But to be honest, if I'm not feeling it, I don't really care. What I like about it I think when I was a teacher, every part of your day is scheduled. They even had you, I don't know what it's like in the States, but in England, even the little bit when the children come in the morning and they're sitting on the mat, you have to have a planned activity for them to do. You have to say what music you're going to play when they come in. You're doing every little 20-minute slot in the day is exactly planned out months ahead, and it's horrible. And so as a writer now, you have no creativity in teaching. It's completely gone. And so as a writer, I actually have to think, today I'd like to draw, today I'd like to write, today I'm going to work on a kid's book, today I'm going to write scary dark fantasy, and that's what I like. And it's a case of balance, really, I think.
I want to close out with one more conversation, and you handed me the question, but my greatest fear at the moment, and I have many of them, is that my readers are going to buy the novel and be appalled by how dark and gritty and violent and profane the book is. It's at like a level where I've never showed up on camera at the level that the book is. It's definitely a part of who I am. I really am in love with the story. Had so much fun. It's also comedic, but I'm just kind of scared. And you just mentioned dark fantasy, and it made me think there's probably a side of you that you put on a page that maybe you don't present to the rest of the world. Have you ever had fear like that before? And if so,
to start with, definitely, Jody, absolutely. I mean, look at me. Jody's looking at me. I'm a round face, little specs. I'm look at me. You see a primary teacher, which is what I was. I'm a a happy, clappy teacher, but I've got a very dark side, and I always have had. And I found that when I started to write, that is what came out, the very dark side. And I write grim, dark fantasy that my oldest friend cannot read. She said, wow. I can't believe this is what you've written. I read literally 2 chapters, Deb, and I can't believe this is you. And I said, well, I'm really sorry, but also that is me.
Yeah.
I've talked to people, as you have, we talked to a lot of people, and I've often talked to people that write horror, really, really scary horror. They're the nice people.
Yes, absolutely.
The nicest souls that you could meet. Funny, very nice. If you ever get the chance to talk to Halo Scott, she writes some scary stuff. Lovely woman, absolutely great. Get her on. She's terrific. And you talk to these people and you think, and I'm the same. And I know. I think I don't bother about strangers. It's people like your family reading it.
Yes.
That you
think,
my
goodness.
That's what bothers me. So my husband is always my first reader, and I'm a very, very lucky person because he just accepts me, dark side and all.
Yeah.
And that is terrific. He doesn't bother. He doesn't go, oh, you can't put that out there, and you can't do this. You can't, whatever it is that I've written. And he just is fine with it. And actually, because he's fine with it, I'm fine with it too now, and I think I've made my peace with it on another level. So I think you will too. I think it's okay to have a dark imagination, and it doesn't mean that you're horrid or nasty. I'm a sweet lady, honestly. And,
who just has some terrifying thoughts.
You pick stuff up and you think, oh my gosh, but that's what storytelling is. Sometimes it is, it is that dark thing, and I think all human beings have a very dark side, and it's just the writer peels that off and opens themselves out and says, actually, here it all is for everybody to see. And I think that's actually quite a brave thing. So
yeah, absolutely.
There you go. You've done the brave thing, Jody. Well done.
Yeah, I do think that that's very true. It's a thing to laugh and smile at. It's also true. It's a little bit scary to put yourself out there in that way. I remember when I first started podcasting, there was a side of my personal life that I was really scared to reveal. It was helpful to realize that my family mostly wasn't listening to the podcast, especially after the first couple of months. Like, they'd supported me long enough. They'd moved on. It wasn't their cup of tea. Shouldn't have been. Nobody else in the family's interested in writing. It's cool. But there still was a moment where I realized anytime they want, they can tap in, they can listen to this podcast. And if I'm speaking with certain guests, there are parts of my life that I'll discuss that I've had experience with that probably my family would be like, oh, he's definitely like just about homeless or going to ruin his life is how they would feel about those parts of my life. So that has been somewhat helpful. But really, I don't know why in a public fashion, I'm not comfortable cursing very often. I'll use it really specifically, but man, my books are vulgar. And it's so weird that that's how the imagination comes out. And I think both things are real, though, which is what you were expressing as well.
You know what? That is the funniest thing is, obviously we're on air and I'm giving you my hopefully my nicest self. But if you met me, I swear all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
All the time. I swear all the time. Every other word is horrendous. And my husband had a party for his big birthday, and the football happened to be on, the World Cup. And some neighbours said, I don't want to bring my husband. I said, oh, don't worry, we don't watch the football. But I said, we'll put it on in the other room, you can all come. And she said, I'm worried about my husband because he gets quite cross. And Paul said, don't worry, nobody can effing swear as much as my wife. And it just made me laugh. But the odd thing is, in print, I don't swear.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
How bizarre is that?
Yeah.
How bizarre is that? I don't, all those dark fantasy books, I think there's 2 swear words in 5 books. And yet the new thing that I'm writing, which happens to be about a witch, she swears. I think she's a bit more like me. You're hiding
the witch in yourself.
Yes, exactly.
That's exciting.
So it is a very funny thing what comes out. But I think what comes out is what needs to be for the story. So if the story, if it needed the profanity, I mean, some people will argue that no profanity is ever needed, but I don't know. If you felt as the creator that the profanity was needed, then it was. But in the medieval fantasy that I've written, I felt that they didn't swear particularly.
Yeah.
But in the more modern thing that I'm writing now, Yeah, she's cursing like
happens.
me.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you say that, and I have to let you go. I've already taken more of your time than I said I would, but I'm thinking about this novel I have out. At the end of part 1, there's a scene of violence. I don't want to give it away too much. There's actually a review already out that describes it, but yeah, that was another moment where I was like, some people would advocate for that particular act of violence never being portrayed on the page. And I just thought the entire motivation of the character, the book, everything is based on this experience that she has. And if you take it out and even just allude to it, you can't get the emotional power to understand why she does some of the things that she does later in the book. But yeah, I've had people be very upset at me for portraying it on the page. And I just thought, you have to. Sometimes I think
sometimes you have to, and I think sometimes you have to be brave and be true to the story that's in your heart that you're writing, and not sugarcoat it. If you're writing a thriller or something that's a bit more gritty, if you're writing a rom-com romance, well, obviously don't get the dagger out and
right.
So I think it's genre specific, and if that's what's in those genre, then you need to just get on with it and not worry. And I worry less as I get older. 10 years ago when I brought the first one out in this series, I was like, and and you get some reaction from people that know you, and then you think, what, it is what it is, and I carried on, and it's still as violent as it ever was. So
that's great.
Yeah, I think it's.
So people need to find your books. The one that you're writing right now, do you know kind of when you're aiming to have it out, or is it still early enough that you're just letting it happen?
I'm hoping that I might get it to the editor. Now, where are we now? February. I'm hoping to get it to the editor in March. So I'm hoping to get it out this side of the year, hopefully. Yeah, so it's called The Midwitch. And so I'm quite happy about that. It's going to be a trilogy, I think. And it's sort of quite a contemporary thing, and so I'm quite excited about that. I'm looking for ARC readers, but if you want to find my other stuff, you can find me at djbowmansmith.com, or if you want to find me as a children's author, I'm tigermolly.com.
Nobody can ever read your children's books after your foul mouth confession.
No, exactly. And this is the thing. This is the funny thing, because that's why I have the 2 author names, because the one stuff is so dark, I just don't feel I would never want a child to go, oh, I know that author. No, you don't know me. I'm not an author. I'm this author. Yes. Yeah.
We tell our kids. And I don't, go ahead.
No, go.
Well, I was just going to say, we tell our kids it's adult language because as adults, we know when to use it and when not to use that. And that pretty much stands up. It's not foul language or anything, but you want to know when's an inappropriate time. And so, having that separation is really important.
Yeah. I think it's good, and I think sometimes it's nice to sort of put a different hat on, like you say, you writing non-fiction as well, and you've got, and I'm sure you write other non-fiction stuff. You could write about podcasting, you can write about loads of other stuff that Jody, as well as the marketing. And again, that's a different beast. Just like I write the kid stuff and the dark stuff. So yeah. So.
Well, this has been lovely. Great follow-up conversation, possibly better than the first. And so I'm really excited. I'm going to check out your books now. I didn't realize that there was the dark, gritty DJ Bowman Smith behind it all. So I'm excited for that.
I don't look like that. Yeah, so you think I'm the nice children author. And I'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, perfect. I'm looking forward to it.
You're coming on to the Words and Pictures with me, which would be fabulous.
Yes.
I already have my list of questions for you.
Ooh, I'll come as sharp as a blunt tack.
Yeah, like me. It's been lovely to talk to you, Jody. Thanks for having me back.
Likewise.
It's been terrific.
Thank you for listening to TRBM. The theme music was provided by the ever-talented Christopher Talon. And hey, if you liked what you heard, share this show with other readers, because what's the point of telling stories if nobody's listening?